It's being the last leg of the run. We just need to be cautious of the time. And we will continue with the session 6 on the technology approaches to tourism, which Dr. Donald Patrick Lim would be presenting. And it would be an interesting, very interesting for us. I would like to read out his profile, which I'm sure he has more to say than the profile. And of course, Dr. Lim has given me the mandate in the sense that I can digest it a little bit. And what you hear may be very small, but the small is beautiful. So that big part is the part that we will always be listening to. So Dr. Donald Patrick Lim, his current role is the Chief Operating Officer, the CEO of DITO CME, and the CIO Officer of the Udena Corporation. He has previously served in various leadership capacity in the media, advertising, and digital spaces, being the country CEO of Dentsu Aegis Philippines, Chief Digital Officer of ABS-CBN Corporation, as well as MD of MRM Manila and CEO of Yehe Corporation and Media Contacts Manila. Most interestingly is that he's also serving as a reservist in the Philippines Air Force and Lieutenant Colonel at the same time. So I was asking, do I call you Dr. Lieutenant Colonel or Lieutenant Dr. Colonel? He has two roles. So here, he would be here as Dr. Donald Patrick Lim. Currently, he's teaching also, and that's an interesting part, on the advanced marketing and advanced strategic management for the doctoral program of San Beda University. And he has taught e-marketing at the Graduate School of De La Salle University and an IMC program at the University of Asia and the Pacific. Aside from his full-time job, so can you imagine his full-time job also, he oversees 12 other businesses of his own, and also does management consulting for up-and-coming brands and businesses. So Dr. Donald recently jumped into the world of Web3, and it's very interesting that he is also recognized as one of the founding fathers of digital marketing in the Philippines. So it's really a great honor, Doctor. If I have left out anything, I'm sure it's because we would like to hear you more. The floor is yours now.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Slides, please. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Just as how I was introduced, I'm currently I hold various roles, one being the Chief Innovation Officer of Udena Corp. And as you know, Udena Corp is very much heavily into tourism also. As you know, we're owners of Chelsea Logistics and Starlight Ferries. We are also part of a publicly listed company, PHR, which PH Resorts, which is Donatella Hotels, among others. We also have Conti's Wendy's Enderon, which is a culinary school. Phoenix is our flagship, which is in oil and gas. And then, of course, I also handle Dito, which is the third telco in the Philippines. Of course, goes without saying that when the pandemic hit, we were dropped to our knees when everything just affected all of us. No? And that's why I will also speak to you in that context. We live in a very digital world, and I've been in the digital space for more than 20 years, and I've been advocating digital transformation for many companies. very interesting is that even until 2018 and 19, people are still saying digital is still a very small chunk of our revenue, and we can delay it further. However, COVID came and dealt a very strong blow to most of the companies, right? In many of our companies. And that is why I think all of us would have to revisit, no, our business plans, our models, how we can wake up again from what had happened. No? COVID was a challenge like many of us have never seen before. The circumstances were taking us beyond our knowledge and capabilities. No? And there's an avalanche of information, but hard to know what is correct. I remember during the time we had a lot of competing priorities. Every day we will be meeting. Are we going to keep our people safe and have them stay at home, or do we bring them in? But no one is in the hotels, and no one is taking our ships, and no one is in the gas stations, and no one is in the restaurant, right? So do we sacrifice the health of our people, or have them come in but service one or two customers every day? So it was really very challenging times. And because of that, no, again, endpoint is not at all clear, and the high uncertainty and high stakes. We've seen how many of our counterparts and colleagues have, in one way or the other, survived. Some actually had to really close down. In fact, in the industry, we saw the smaller mom and pop restaurants, even actually the big ones have actually closed shop. If you Google business closures 2020, 2021, everyone had their fair share of being in the limelight, right? Big or small. So whether it is a big hotel in the Davao City, or even, of course, automobile companies have to close for some time because of COVID. We also saw that whether it is local or global, it doesn't, everything's the same. Uniqlo, Zara would have to close more than thousands of their stores around the world. Personally, I've been in a lot of businesses. What are the odds? No, if you're familiar with Chami, I opened that with Charo Santos. It was supposed to compete with Amber. So imagine mo when you open, and Chami's bilao, diba? So you theoretically you eat with friends, and now no one is eating together, right? So imagine the experience and the trauma, right? I also had to close down some of my draft restaurants and Bad Bird in Serendra, if you're familiar. So again, it's really a very interesting call, no? So a lot of my businesses in the retail side actually went down, and then I have a digital business. I own iPay88. It's a payment gateway. From 100 million transactions revenue, immediately went to 1 billion. And it's okay, what happened here also? So then you begin to realize, no, everything really just moved from the physical to digital. So having said that, no, it's what we call COVID. The World Economic Forum tells us, no, COVID was actually one of the great, it is the great reset. And Klaus Schwab, no, said, who's the chairman of the World Economic Forum, said the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. And it is what we call one of the greatest equalizers of all time. We've seen World War I and World War II equalized everyone, right? Even the richest people have to go back to zero. And maybe in some way or form, COVID was that also, right? It balanced everyone off, and therefore the challenge for all of us is how do we get ourselves back to our feet. I think during the COVID time, I had more than 100 Zoom presentations, forums, among others, people asking one very simple question: how do we get back? Or what is a business? What is a good business to go into? Do I sell face mask and face shield? And I would say, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think for all of us, what is more important is it has taught us to master what is called the business pivot, right? And what is a pivot? It's not about opportunistic, meaning that you saw face masks and face shields being sold and you want to sell it also for you to generate sales. But it's all about still anchoring it on your core expertise. So it means that you have to shift without moving away from your core. If you are a basketball player, you would know that if you're bringing down the ball and you stop, you look left and you look right? But you cannot lift the other foot anymore, right? Or else that would be traveling. And that is the same principle as what I call a business pivot, right? You have to stay true to your core, but you have to now extend and look at other business opportunities. And why is that important? Is that because if you pivot, you begin to realize there are many opportunities that are out there that are untapped, but now you can take advantage of. Because what we are sure of is that what COVID taught us, no, and what COVID had us experience, no, we call COVID a black swan event. And black swan events create lasting change. No? They are extremely rare events with large impact and potentially severe consequences. In 9/11, for example, before 9/11, when I was going to the US, they're not very strict with their airports now. You have to go through a certain number of security. In World War II, for example, that was a time when women joined the workforce because all the men were fighting in the trenches. In 2003, and that's why maybe China is very advanced in technology, QR, mobile payments, among anything and everything, everything tech, was because that prompted the e-commerce boom in China when SARS was actually COVID 1.0 for China already. So COVID for them was a second time around, after 15 years. And having said that, because the whole world has been challenged by the pandemic, we saw also some hospitality practitioners have to make their own pivot. For example, I'm part of the Marriott Club. No? And very interesting, I got this in an email, no? Because when I was traveling for the past 10 years pre-COVID, so they sent me in the email. They said, if you cannot, you're a Marriott, you're a Marriott goer. If you cannot enjoy the Marriott experience and have the Marriott experience in our hotels, why don't you have the Marriott experience in the comfort and safety of your home? And would you like to buy a Marriott bed, or a Marriott linen, pillows, or Marriott bedding, or bath, or scents? Right. So I was very surprised. People go dropping down. Oh, all the beds are there, and they have a price, and they will ship it to you. And they said, enjoy Marriott there, right, in the comfort and safety of your home, right? And there we saw how a lot of these, our friends in the industry have made their pivots. Locally, for example, who would have thought that a Jollibee would be selling their Chicken Joy frozen, right? In the first 3 months, they were selling the most prized chicken, Chicken Joy in a supermarket. Or, for example, for Potato Corner, who would say that no matter how long the line, I will only drop and cook the fries when you are ordering it already. And now they're selling frozen fries. I would have thought that even ramen houses before, who would say they will never allow you to take out ramen, would have perfectly packed ramen kits for you to enjoy at your house. And of course, Global Art, I only put it there because even before pandemic, my daughter was learning how to draw and to do a lot of artwork. And I said, can we do it at home via Zoom? And they said, you cannot teach artwork via Zoom. And then in COVID, they say, would you like to enroll again? We can teach artwork via Zoom. Right? So that's how things have evolved. More interesting for us is maybe, of course, Family Mart. If you're familiar with Family Mart, so we got that franchise. Family Mart opens in only one location, Central Business District. So what happens when no one goes to work and no one goes to Central Business District? So we have to make our pivot also. We had to luckily we have a logistics company, so we had used the trucks of the logistics company, plaster it with Family Mart, and we go to the different communities. In fact, we had so much inventory, we had to tell our employees, would you also like to open a small sari-sari store Family Mart in your house, right? So they have like a display like that. We pushed the envelope further because our Starlight Ferries, our Chelsea Logistics, we have so many container trucks, containers. So they're not shipping also. Said, okay, let's make it a Family Mart na rin. And we were the ones who started. We see already a proliferation of this already, right? With various, I think Tokyo, so many restaurants. But we were the very first, in 2020 when the pandemic was started, we started doing this. And again, very efficient, less than $1 million, and you can have a franchise, and you can move. If the location is not good, you can just move it, right? So it's as efficient. So that's what I'm saying when you talk about the pivot, right? Making yourself and your mindset more agile. You can move quicker. At the same time, you're not already anchored on the rules of the past, right? The rules of a regular business, and you become more creative. So in many cases, like, when I talk to people, especially those who have, when I talk to SMEs, when I talk to Go Negosyo, when I do my mentor advice. You know, you can hear so many stories of business people when they say, I retired and this is my hard-earned money and they're gone now, right? And so many of that, right? And to them, the COVID was like four horsemen of the apocalypse, you know? And that's why you realize, no, that that I think as a country and maybe as a society, we have to help those who are really affected and who were really you know, buried from the pandemic. But and that's where we look for inspiration. We look for pockets of stories, insights, and ideas on how to push back, you know, and bring back, you know, the hustle and bustle of what was pre-COVID. I'll just share with everyone. I don't know if you've seen this case. No, I like this this social media case of hungry grannies. No, when this was done by a telco company actually, but what they did was that they created a story behind well, grandmothers and their cooking, and they were able to generate a steer, and people were actually going to them, and they became a national icon. Okay. I'll share with you an idea, but I like showing this to tourism stakeholders. Is that because if your country, our country, who has a lot of natural resources, actually we're not capitalizing, sometimes we can create a story out of it, and we can generate enough traffic, no, and buzz from there.
România sunt peste 4 milioane de români care au trecut de 75 de ani. Rămași singuri acasă.
Părinți, bunici singuri în casele lor.
With over 40% of elderly people in Romania living alone, Vodafone wanted to prove that mobile internet can empower anybody to change his life for the better. So we created an experiment meant to show how using technology can fight loneliness, presenting Sunday Grannies.
Am rămas văduvă și atunci ne-am mutat împreună.
În 2012 a plecat și bărbatul meu.
Și de atunci
suntem singure.
Asta este viața. Trebuie să mergem mai departe. Și o să fie bine, ți-am spus.
Though they're alone, they never stopped cooking for a whole family. So we connected the two lonely grannies with students that miss home-cooked meals. We showed grannies the basics of social networks, and we asked them to post their menu and invite students to their Sunday lunch. We made a documentary and put it on TV.
Și acum hai pe Facebook și iute la masă că se răcește.
And soon the grannies' lives started to change. Their Facebook page became the second campaign page in the country. Their story became part of the daily news.
Apelăm la bunicuțele de duminică.
Să cuceriți internetul.
Păi, devină domnule la masă, în număr cât mai mare.
The empty apartment became the hottest eating place in the capital and visited by celebrities. Simona Halep, number 2 WTA, paid them a visit and even promoted their initiative on her official Facebook page.
Hai pe net la bunici să mâncăm împreună.
And MasterChef judge Adrian Hadean got a test from the grannies.
Am scăpat, haideți să vă pup.
They got so popular they even started producing their own cooking show.
Bine ați venit în bucătăria noastră.
And their famous lemon pie reached the supermarkets. Soon they became an inspiration for the millions of Romanians living alone. So we opened up the platform, creating a Facebook app where any granny can organize her own pop-up lunch. People from all across the country joined in.
Să facem mâncare pe internet
Pentru Facebook.
faceți drum și pe la noi, pe la piatră.
And their empty houses became happy again. The campaign reached over 380 million total media impressions, while social media adoption rate among seniors tripled, driving a 20% increase of Facebook accounts owned by Romanians over 65. All while 4G smartphone sales got a 78.8% boost.
Okay, so if you think about it, right, there's no equity, there's no natural resources or whatever, but the creative idea itself was able to spark a lot of attention, talkability, and they become an icon, no, a national icon on their own, right? And having said that, no, I've always been, because I'm always in the marketing and the advertising side. In fact, you know, because I'm in Manila, people always tell me, first question when they land, where do we go? And I have nothing to tell them, except Intramuros or Chinatown, what else, right? And you have to push them here, right? But I think we never really exercised any level of planning in creating stories and icons, no, within each of the cities that we have. So I came from the Four Horsemen, right? And for me, I want to address the Four Horsemen also. And there are 4 key components that we saw that we can take advantage of. and allow me to go through this very quickly, given the time. But there are what I call imperatives. Four imperatives when we do the next wave of digital. So I won't talk about. I usually do a lot of talk on Facebook, YouTube, and mobile apps. I won't go through that, no. But more on what are the opportunities and possibilities we can take on. So the first is go cashless or go home. We saw during the pandemic, we saw hyper growth across three areas: so e-commerce, e-services, and e-finance. E-commerce meaning that during the time of the pandemic, people were just searching online. Anything related to e-commerce just went up. And one of the key movements was that all of these super apps are expanding from carts to marts: Lazmart, Shopee Mart, and Grab Mart. In fact, after doing this, 2020, 2021, one of the biggest winners, even up to now, is TikTok, right? So if you're familiar with TikTok, all the sales are now migrating, into TikTok. But using these apps, people before they would always say, "I cannot imagine buying grocery using an app," and yet because of pandemic, we have now become accustomed to it. A lot of the brick and mortar stores have also gone online. These five I have talked to before pandemic, and they said, no, 5%, 10% sales is online. I won't even invest in anything online. And yet during that time, they were all stocked out, and their websites were extremely slow because people were going to their website. Data blitz is very slow because everyone apparently who were at home were just playing games, so they were buying games online, right? Because nowhere else to go. What was interesting, again, I'll talk about TikTok. The first half of the pandemic, we had the rise of a lot of merchants on Instagram, and people were posting, and people were posting their products and selling their products there. No? One of the interesting things we had now, last year we had a planning session for familiar with Contis, right? Even for familiar Contis, diba? So Contis, who's the competitor of Contis? Mary Grace, right? Right. So we had Mary Grace as a theoretical competitor, and yet when we looked at when we said we were doing our SWOT analysis and competition, what we found out was that of course Mary Grace is a competitor, but we realized Mary Grace was not a competitor. During Father's Day, Mother's Day, and all the special occasions, long line of people on Contis. But when we said if there's a long line and you cannot order in Contis anymore, where would you go? Would you go to Mary Grace? They would say no. And vice versa. The hardcore of Mary Grace, hardcore customers, would not go to Contis. So I said, where would you go? Oh, Instagram. What happened was that if you go to Instagram and you look for a Mango Bravo cake and whatever cake, it's a long list of people having their own version of the Mango Bravo or any other cakes for that matter. And you realize that a long tail has been activated. During the first half of the pandemic, people were at home doing nothing. And a lot of them who were experimenting, wanting to bake a cake, started baking and started to monetize. So we saw more than 1,000 people selling Mango Bravo, selling cakes for that matter, no? And you just order and they will deliver it to you. And that's what we call the long tail, no? And that also opened up a lot of opportunities, no? You can actually become a restaurant on your own just by brokering for so many people, and you are the ones consolidating and giving it and serving it to your customers. So that's one. Second is e-services. We saw that when you talk about e-services, we thought that it's impossible to execute a purely online education in the Philippines, only because of internet access, because of where we're 70% poverty and below poverty. People won't have access to gadgets nor internet, and however, we were able to execute it, right? One of the more interesting thing was actually that the doctor has moved now to online. In Macan before 2012, I still remember that very presentation I made to a group of doctors, and I said, you have to go online and do online consultation already. I have a platform for you, online booking, online consultation, video, everything, 2012. And they said, you know why we are doctors? It's because we cannot make a mistake. We'll get a lot of lawsuit, and we will have to check a person physically. And that's why we were never able to sell that platform. And then fast forward 2020, all the doctors were saying, okay, where was that platform that you were selling us? And I said, of course not anymore. I'm not with that company. And I asked them, I thought you said you cannot do anything virtually because you have to check a patient physically. Then the doctor said, oh, actually, no. 90% when you tell me what your sickness is or or what your pain is, we already know what it is, right? 90%. Only 10% we really have to check, right? And that's why if you look at today, right, most doctors have already migrated to digital. They also have their own live session and then Zoom session, right? Most of them. So we saw that entire economy, no, entire society really moving to online. And why is that possible? That time it wasn't possible because it was hard to pay, no. But now because of e-finance, we've done online banking. All of the apps have garnered tremendous amount of usage. And at the same time, if you look at GCash, I think 70 million already. Maya is around 45, but again, they're neck and neck, no, fighting each other out, no, creating what is called the ultimate Philippine wallet. And because of that, everything, no, everything digital and end-to-end digital execution has also become possible. One of the things very interesting was actually when I was on my Facebook page, I just saw, who would have thought that a Jollibee birthday party can be on Zoom, right? But they're doing it, they're selling it. They said, alam mo, okay nga eh. Kasi, number one, kid safety is there. Number two, the kids have already learned how to Zoom because school has taught them how to go online. And they know how to have fun already via Zoom, right? So they already have a virtual party, no? And again, that opens up an entire category. They said, I'm not limited now by the physical arrangement of the restaurant or the physical limitations of my restaurant, but I can do a purely online birthday party for kids. No? So the challenge, and actually one of the biggest winners of this category, no, is actually not Jollibee, but the logistics providers. Because we have to deliver a one-piece chicken and spaghetti to the house, and Sunday to the house of 40 kids, right? Or 50 kids. So just very quickly, first, go cashless or go home. Second, I'll go quickly into deep link, just to introduce the principle of deep linking, okay? So if you look at deep linking, I'll just share with you what we did in Chami, okay? In Chami. So as you all know, we are at the mercy of the OTAs or the aggregators, right? Or the aggregators. For us, because we're in the restaurant business, we're under the mercy of first Facebook, Instagram, and then afterwards Grab and Foodpanda. So for us, though, we have to do a lot of marketing. We pumped in a lot of money to market via the awareness platform, which is Facebook and Instagram. After that, right, then our customers will go to Grab or they will go to Foodpanda to order. When they go to Grab and Foodpanda, then that is when they will search for our brand, Chami. They will order their noodles, whatever, right? And then they will go to the shopping cart, and that is when we go for the customer. And we deliver it to the customer. But that gave us a very, what we found out was that there's a very big problem there. Is that if you look at it, when people after I promote heavily on Facebook, when they go to Grab, right, they saw all the other noodles there. And most likely I will be intercepted. Because my brand is not a known brand, of course, automatically. So I market. Okay, I got hungry. I want to order noodles or chicken. But when they go to Grab, they go to Amber. Right? So because of that, I'm wasting money, and technically I'm feeding the competitor. Yeah. So what we do, right, is what we call a deep link. A deep link allows me that when you go to Facebook, you can actually circumvent. By when they click on the link on Facebook and Instagram, it goes directly to your page inside Foodpanda or Grab. Right? So when you work with your solutions experts or digital people, tell them to deep link you. Deep link, meaning deeper link, link into the deeper part, and not just, because you will always say, or search for us on Grab. Right? Search, you put your logo, right? You're in very nice picture of your food, and then you put their Grab, Foodpanda, and everything. That is for me, as a marketing person, very inefficient. Unless you are the number one, then you have an advantage. But if you're playing catch up, it doesn't make sense because they will go to your competitor, or your competitor will intercept you. Right? So that's why you have to go deep link, right? And by doing that, when you do deep link, You can even do what we call hyper-targeting and geofencing. So within certain cities, no, because some cities, if you're not available there, then you can execute even a deep link on the per city. What we saw was that our conversion rate was higher, around 12%, versus a normal conversion rate of less than 1%. So before, when we actually get how many? 10,000 people. So imagine 10,000 people were to see it, only 1,000 were to convert. We were to click, right? After 1,000, you only get 10 going to our going to our site. And after that, hindi pa lahat, no? Not everyone will order. You still have drop-offs. You have to spend so much to earn, no? But when you do a deep link, you get an extra 10%, 12% conversion. Okay, I hope I'm getting through, but you understand the principle. Okay, so deep link because you bypass the main page of the aggregator. Okay? So that's the second one. Third, I'll talk about influencers. No, I think right now, of course, in the Philippines with ABS down, no, again, forever kapamilya ako, but with ABS losing its franchise, it's very tough for the entire, even not of course for the entire broadcast business, but also for me as a marketing person. When you create a marketing plan, before you put a lot of TV, but now there's nothing there to put, right? And that's why a lot of media monies are floating. A lot of like, where do I spend the money, right? When you say marketing, okay, what do you do in marketing? I grew up in the year, early 2000. All the marketing budgets was easy. Okay, give me a big one, put it on TV. But right now, without a big player, you have nowhere else to put. And when you go to Facebook or digital, where will you place it? That gave way to the rise of what we call the influencers. No? In fact, I've been studying influencers for 10 years, starting with ABS influencers, and now more into what we call nano and micro influencers. Those who are not mainstream, but very strong digitally. No? I won't go through this now, but in essence, I created a scoring system where I looked at not all influencers are created equal. Sometimes an influencer would go to you and say, I have 1 million followers. If you don't, right? There's so many issues about that. I have 1 million followers, give me a free stay. And because of that, we started to dissect. No? And one of the things I analyzed was, for example, Main for Mac. No, Main Mendoza, familiar, no? For Mac. So they become the case study only because we realized Main for Mac was, she introduced a very popular celebrity. She introduced a lipstick and it was sold out in 1 minute, gone in 60 seconds. So we started to analyze, oh, she was so popular. Why would the lipstick be gone in 60 seconds? But when we looked at it, we realized that even influencers follow what we call a marketing conversion funnel. So Main for Mac, no, when we look at all the influencers, Main was the one who brought in all the awareness, but she was not the reason why people buy. When Main was saying, okay guys, please buy my lipstick, no one really cared. Oh, okay, I know, right? So it's cerebral. Then we saw that there's a next layer of celebrities or influencers who did the engagement. They were talking about, oh, did you know that she launched her lipstick and I think it might be okay, blah, blah. But there was a third layer of influencers who had very small follower base, 10,000, 15,000. They were the reasons for the conversion. They were saying that I use the lipstick, it's really good, go and buy. Right? So there's what you call a marketing funnel. Even influencers, right? There are some who are a real awareness driver, some that drives engagement and excitement, and those who really give you the real conversion. So you have to understand also that if you are a known brand, then you don't need an awareness driver anymore, right? You go for even with a lower, right, follower base for your influencers, they can be the drivers of your business, and therefore you are more efficient. So even for us right now, even for Ditotel, even for some of our brands, once we generate enough awareness, we go for a lot of micro influencers. And they're the ones who, because they have a stronger follower base, smaller but more what we call higher affinity. So even yung mga close groups, then we actually get them to convert. One of the things that I experimented with, of course, in the Philippines, and this is something you can experiment also, was Wendy's. No, I'll digress a bit. If you're familiar with the Wendy's brand, we're like very far. Jollibee and McDonald's are top 2, right? They have 1 billion budget. Wendy's has what? 1 million? Good luck, right? It's very hard. And then there's a pandemic. So how do you compete? So what we did was we started to become creative. What we did was, if we cannot compete head-on, how can we compete against them? So we said, let's identify certain day parts where we can go head on with them. And we identified a day part, no, which is like 9 to 2, right, in evening, where we felt we can have an edge. And we said, who can we go after if it's the evening market? And we realized, okay, we can go after gamers. Right? We go after gamers. So what we did was that there was a tournament. There were 3 tournaments that were happening. This was Dota, no, those who are gaming. And what we did was we identified a group who can help us. We said, okay, well, we're not going to advertise. But what we did was that for the shoutcasters, so they're the ones like the announcers, every time they're the ones doing the games, we gave them Wendy's products every night for more than a month. So they don't even have to sell. We told them, do not sell. Do not say, guys, this is Wendy's. No. Just eat. Just eat while you're playing or while you're announcing and doing whatever, right? And of course, they were doing that. And then after that, then we saw already that in social media, people were posting also because they were saying, nakakagutom, I'm getting hungry watching the 2 of you eat, right? Or the 3 of you eat, right? By doing that, no, by just partnering with them, so they don't think about their food anymore. I take care of all their food. They just eat and nothing else. Our sales of Wendy's during that day part grew by 30%. Only just by doing that. Because people were saying, I'm getting hungry watching you eat. And they saw the Wendy's brand there. I just felt guilty afterwards because they got fat lang. It's like very bad actually. So I will never do it again actually. So 30 days of Wendy's is not good. Do not do it also. Okay. So that's and then of course again, Chami, not a lot of budget. So what we do, we partner with Let's Eat Pare, we partner with When in Manila. So again, if you do not have budgets for a lot of marketing advertising, then PR is the way to go, right? So and you know that already. Okay. And the last one I'll take on is really the metaverse. I think I want to end with this last segment where something for the future, right? Because we're also embarking into that category already. No? The reason is that this is an eventuality. It's not even like far future. It might be nearer than we think. As we all know, year 1990s, mainframe, very big computers, right? And then we go to the PC, and then web, and then mobile. No? So year 2007, 8, iPhone, with can now access the internet, right? So that's the mobile. And then right now, after 15 years, we're now into the metaverse and the Web3 space. And then, of course, stage 6 spatial web, we're not yet there. But in essence, year 2000 was what we call Web 1, right? It's what we call the read-only. Remember the website? You create a website and you read only, nothing else you can do. Fast forward, I'm sure you've used Friendster, Friendster, MySpace, Multiply, whatever, right? That's Web 2, read and write. You can now write online. You can now post and post your pictures online. Read, write. That's Web 2. Now, it's what you call Web 3. Now, Web 3 is, galit yung mga Web 3, they're angry at Web 2. They said, Google and Facebook, you're mining all our data to earn money. So they call it the decentralized web. No one owns it anymore. Okay? So that is called Web 3, right? And one of the key anchors of Web 3 is what you call the metaverse, meaning that no one owns the metaverse. It's like another computer. Like when you create a website, right? You put it online. So same also with the metaverse. Except right now, it's still a bit centralized to certain owners. But what is interesting is that a lot of the younger audiences are playing with it already. Now, if you're familiar with, do you know Marshmallow? Okay, so Marshmallow, if you've seen Marshmallow, I don't know if you can see it, that's downstairs. They have 2.3 billion views, right, for this video. And 2.3 billion views. If you're familiar with Gangnam Style, when he reached 1 billion views, he was very popular. Guinness Book of World Record, 1 billion views, Gangnam Style. But then you realize that more and more of the next generation are really lording it over on YouTube. So if you're familiar with Marshmallow, I'll just show you a quick video. Okay, I won't finish it, but I just want you to get a feel, and how he played with the metaverse. So imagine Marshmallow is so popular, you don't even see his face. Okay, so when he started, when he became very popular, he said he wanted to do a concert, and he executed it. He chose a metaverse, Fortnite, right? And he did exactly the same thing, where he got millions of his followers online go into Fortnite using their avatars, and their avatars, so Roblox, like for example, and they're playing, they're dancing there, right? With so many people tune in, right? So this is his Fortnite. So he was there in Fortnite, no, in the metaverse, and the people there are live. They're also there.
Yo, what is up, Fortnite? What's up, Pleasant Park? My name is Marshmallow, and thank you for coming out today and making history with me. You guys ready?
So that's the Fortnite concert. And so if you're familiar with Roblox, it's going to be almost the same play, except you are now attending, no? And later I'll add another layer to it. So what we're seeing here, no, is that if you look at, so I'll just stop it now. You're familiar with when you go to a metaverse, you need an Oculus, right? So you can see that in the mall already. But last year, when we had a Philippine Blockchain Week, someone introduced a glass metaverse, like the one. So you just wear it. When you wear it, you are inside the metaverse. You can even create your own meeting room, like there. So imagine when we go to an online meeting, right? We're on Zoom, right? So you see everyone on a square. But when you wear it, when you look left and right, you're inside that room, inside that meeting. And you can see the avatars. You can see the avatars of people, right? And they're meeting there with you. Okay? So again, it's going to be very efficient. And this is not experimental. In fact, I saw Caribbean, I saw some places experimenting in schools already. So they're in different parts of the world, but when they wear it, they're in the big hall in the classroom. Okay, and so we're going to see some bits of that later on. So that's how you enter the metaverse. Seoul, 2 years ago, the city mayor launched the first city inside the metaverse. And the mayor said, if you want to renew any of your license, don't go to my website. Go to my metaverse, wear your glasses, and just click on my shoulder, and I will address whatever you need. And since avatar already, all of them are avatars. No? And again, the play will be different. In fact, the metaverse, before, one of the most expensive lands are already there. Right? So they're already having lunch there. They're even having hotels built inside the metaverse. And by virtue of the glasses, you would know that the use cases will expand tremendously. So we see, for example, that if you're doing your spinning, your stationary bike, when you wear it and you look left and right, oh, si Kardashian nandito. Right? And all the Hollywood celebrities, as long as they're wearing it also. And so they might be with you. Same also, for example, if you're like boxing, you might be boxing Pacquiao and you don't even know. Or you will know. Even if he's in Jensen, no, as long as you're both wearing the same device. Right? Some have pushed the envelope to what is called, this is a move to earn, right? So the more you move, the more you earn points, and the points can be, NFTs, no? So then you can actually exchange it for cryptocurrency. Other things, this Z is very popular in the UK. What they did was that they created their own horse racing. So what happened here is that
this is the future of horse racing.
you can buy a horse, and every time your horse wins, you earn money. So it's really real betting, right? But it's purely online. The thing is, you can buy a horse, and also your horse can breed, pwede manganak. And therefore, you can sell the offspring also, no? And again, these horses are worth millions and millions. Okay? And all of these are sold out in the platform, in that metaverse. Because of the popularity of this, I won't go through the video. A lot of brands have also started going in. So Stella Artois, for example, went there and sponsored 50 horses, right? And therefore, lahat ng horse apwet may Stella Artois. Kita nyo. Okay. One of the things about Web3 is the rise of what we call NFTs, non-fungible tokens, right? Non-fungible. So if you're not familiar with the principle of non-fungible tokens, it's actually, so money is a token, right? Money is a token, except it's fungible. Fungible means I can exchange my 1,000 pesos and your 1,000 pesos. If we exchange, doesn't matter. Non-fungible means it is unique. So if I have one single 1,000 pesos and there's a stamp of, for example, the picture of our Philippine president, and I have the only one, then it's not transfer. It's not it's unique to me, right? And that's what we call non-fungible. So what we're doing right now is that non-fungible tokens have taken over, for example, the art world. If you're familiar with this painting, Starry Starry Night, right? You cannot own a Starry Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. But what they did is they fractionalize it. When they fractionalize it, right, they're now auctioning each digital square, right? And when they auction these millions of dollars, you own a digital square, and you can put it on your wall along with the real painting because you cannot own it, right? It might look weird, might sound weird, but for example, for the Filipinos, what if they fractionalize as polarium, and you own a digital copy of it? So we're seeing so many groups in the artwork selling their fractional copy of their artwork. One of the songs, for example, wait. I'll go to this very interesting one was G Villas in Siargao. Okay, so G Villas, what they did was that after the pandemic, they don't have enough capex to expand the villa. So what they did was that they launched 300 NFTs, 300 non-fungible tokens. Each NFT is worth 1 Ethereum, 1 ETH. 1 Ethereum is like 100,000 pesos. Okay, 100,000 pesos. And what does that promise? When you buy an NFT, and only 300 available, okay? If you buy one, you will be able to stay in G Villas for 10 days, for 10 years. Okay, at your choosing. So it's like timeshare, but you get the advance pay. At the same time, you will also have profit sharing. There's annual dividends, there are free Siargao tours, among many others. Right? So they were able to get all the money up front, and it's not like profit sharing in a way that they're part of the company, but it's because of the token you can now use it, right, for an exchange. An example is that if you're familiar with Eraserheads, they had a song where si Eli Buendia. They launched a digital song. They sold, again, 300 NFTs. If you buy an NFT, you will also have you can also have proceeds of all the songs in the future if it's run on Spotify or wherever. So that is the power of NFTs and Web3. It's what you call decentralized. Everyone can now be an owner. Okay. So having said this, I'll stop here. Maybe I can open the floor for questions. But 4 key imperatives: go cashless, deep link, use of influencers, and meet the metaverse. Okay, thank you.
That was a great one. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Lim. I mean, that was a great one because we really went on a jet speed presentation and very digitizing our own selves of different ages, of course. Some of them I couldn't catch, of course, but I'm sure most of you could. But I'm learning. I'm still learning. I'm learning from my 6-year-old granddaughter. So life regeneration, of course. So since we have, if there are any issues, I'm sure, you know, Dr. Lim is available for discussion later on in the sense that we have Gregory Duffel, the former PATA president, New Zealand. He's online and he's been waiting for some time. So I hope you don't mind, Dr. Lim, if I do not recap, because if I do it, I'm going to confuse everybody. And it's better that I leave it to Dr. Lim and, you know, his jet set. Okay, thank you. So I think we should have the Zoom open for Gregory Duffel, who's the former PATA president. And while you are working on the Zoom, I would like to share the short, very, very brief bio of Gregory A. Duffel. Hi, Gregory. Yeah, hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, I haven't seen you for such a long time, you know? Yeah.
It's been many years, many years.
Many years, but not too many years that will reveal my age, you know? Okay. So can I just give them a brief, you know, you're such a resourceful person. So Greg is an innovative entrepreneur with 40 years in global travel and tourism technology, SDEM education, fintech marketplaces, and franchising. He's the group CEO of Smooth Experience and Company, new in destination and commerce platform, and is a travel and tourism domain expert. most of you must know him as he was formerly CCO Cranium Ventures, as well as the CEO, which is the Chief Executive Officer of Pacific Asia Travel Association, PATA. And he co-founded a Silicon Valley software company, Migo Software, and taking it public with the former Apple senior VP. Greg is a director of the International School of Sustainable Tourism in the Philippines, and he also mentors startups, Isware, Travel Hub, Travel Book, and advises VC companies like Amadeus Next. Interesting. He was born in New Zealand, so we have Australian, Asian, and now we have a New Zealander, an Asian also, and he spent a stint pilot training with the Royal Australian Air Force. He has lived and worked in Australia, my God, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and 25 years, Dubai, UK, and USA, and Canada. And next you will be visiting Myanmar as well. Okay, the floor is yours. It's just that it's virtual, and I wish you could join. Okay, thank you very much. Please go ahead. The floor is yours now. Yes.
Thank you. And firstly, I must apologize that I'm not there physically. Unfortunately, I had a family tragedy last week, and I had to stay home and babysit my young daughter, and so I'm having to come online virtually. So I appreciate you letting me come online virtually. And after Dr. Lim's speech about the metaverse, then I do feel like a bit of an avatar talking to you, but I am real. And I'd certainly like to thank Dr. Mina and the ISST team, and of course Takayaya-san and the AEN team there for setting up the Ecotourism Forum. This is a great opportunity. I'm gonna just spend a little bit of time giving you some really top level from my own experience in travel and tourism over the last 40 years, and as Kiki mentioned, all these different countries I've lived in, and we're having a thunderstorm right here now, so I hope I don't get hit by lightning, but anyway, let's pursue. And I'm just gonna give you some insights into the media and how to use it for ecotourism the way I see it. And also, I've been very much involved in the last 6 months, just over 6 months in the AI side of things, and I know you all want to sort of hear about ChatGPT and how we use that. And I've been involved out of Massachusetts, MIT, and the US, and we're putting together some really interesting stuff for travel and tourism, which I'm going to touch on a little bit. So let's just go through very briefly, and I don't want to take up too much time at the end of the day here, but I'm going to just touch base on offline media, online media, and then a little bit on the machine learning side of things and AI side of things, and hopefully give you some hints and some ideas of how to do that at the most cost-effective way of doing it, of course. Okay, so traditional media, we all know what it is: the news, the TV and radio. You know, the different audiences gravitate to newspapers, even though the circulations have been declining all over the place. And a lot of newspapers have moved to digital print as well. TV, of course, is 24 hours a day and catches everybody. And radio has certain audience as well. And radio has gone to a digital format as well. The key things about using traditional media is budget. TV costs a lot of money. We all know this. Print, there's issues with print if you're in ecotourism, using paper, and it's not so eco-friendly. And of course, radio over digital ways is quite interesting. And of course, for me, it's all about where you want to hit your audience, what time of day. So TV is 24 hours, you can hit them any time of the day, but there's certain times of the day that obviously we all watch TV, certain times of the day we read a newspaper, and certain times of the day we might be listening to the radio. So my favorite in all of this, just to be very brief, I love the radio. Radio is really an underserved medium use for you to, as an ecotourism person. You can tell lots of great stories on radios. I always get invited onto radio talk shows. And so therefore, get yourself invited into a radio talk show, talk about all types of interesting things, introduce your brand, introduce what you're doing, and you get a lot of instant feedback and instant calls coming in. It's a really great medium to get feedback, and then you'll get invited again and again and again to radio stations. And radio is still used even by the younger generation. The millennials and the Gen Zs have their own digital stations and music stations, Spotify and that they download all the music from. So it's still a great medium. TV, I think, is just too expensive. I don't use TV much anymore. And newspapers, sorry, unless they give me a free spot in the newspaper. They're always trying to sell me ads in the newspaper. I don't like that. Billboards. I don't know if you remember in the Philippines, here in Malaysia, and I know in Thailand about 15 years ago, There used to be hand-painted billboards, and the movie theaters would hand-paint billboards, believe it or not. Those days are gone by, and we're now all into digital billboards and digital kiosks and things like that. But if you have an ecotourism facility and it's not far from the main road and there's a billboard within a couple of kilometers, and that billboard's empty, it's not a bad place to be advertising. Turn left in 3 kilometers and you'll see this park, or you'll see this facility that you're offering. So it's sometimes an expensive advertising medium, but there are plenty of empty billboards. And if you go and negotiate the right time to say, I just want to fill up one of your empty spots, you can get them for very cheap. And again, it's a good place to advertise if you've got something you want to display about your ecotourism facility and site. But remember, billboards are a drive past facility, so you've got to have something that hits the audience within a few seconds and they've gone past. The digital kiosks and digital billboards at malls, at airports are also quite good, but they do tend to be quite pricey unless you can get yourself a sponsor partner to go online with those as well. So billboards, interesting to have. Yeah. Magazines, we used to, in my day, we had thousands of magazines in shops. Now you go to a bookshop and there's very few magazines. Again, a lot of them have gone to a digital format, which I personally don't like reading digital magazines. I still prefer to pick up a magazine and hold it in my hands. But there are out there, and again, if you could get yourself be invited to do an editorial in a magazine, do a feature in a magazine, then you can get some really good PR out of that, and you can do that for free. Advertising in magazines, advertising in airline magazines, that's sort of going out of fashion. Very expensive to do that on an airline. But they do circulate quite a few to all the frequent flyers, and airline lounges magazines are used quite extensively. So still not a bad medium, but you've got to spend some good dollars to do it right. Flyers and handouts. I just launched a digital app in the island of Fiji, and it's an in-destination app where you can do travel, you can do retail, you can do duty-free, spas, wellness, everything. When a traveler arrives in Fiji, we've got everything on our platform. And I tried to print some flyers in Fiji so I could hand them out to people at the airport to download my app. And the printers in Fiji said, no way. No, you cannot. If these flyers get put into the water or dumped on the ground, we, the printer, get fines. Wow, fantastic. So you know what? Printed flyers, no go. Very eco-unfriendly, don't do it. Get out of it. Do digital vouchers, digital printing, and make it climate-friendly, please. And Fiji taught me a lesson about, you know what? Flyers are out of date these days. Press releases. It's so easy to do a press release, and there's so many digital channels you can put your own press release up online and get it distributed to a very wide audience. But you've got to have some bold, catchy headlines. You've got to be very creative with your headlines. Eco-tourists love worms. That's not what it's all about. In the first paragraph, it's about, you can, if you're an eco-tourist, come to my site and eat some worms, but actually we want to show you some other things. So very catchy in your headlines. You've got to capture the first couple of paragraphs. You've got to have all the key things you want to get around it. Put some quotes in there, preferably quotes from your customers. What they thought about your eco-friendly hotel, your resort, or your facility where you're building something with wood and palms and that. So get some quotes from your customers to do that. Use photographs, high-resolution photographs that are printable, because these need to go across the digital domain. Dr. Lim talked about the metaverse and other things like that. You've got to have very high-quality printable material to go into that. Put in your profile and context. Best days to do a press release, believe it or not, on every Tuesday and Wednesdays. It seems to get better circulation, and the best times are between 9 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So there we go. I guess when people are sitting around on the internet doing it at work or doing it at home, looking at these things. So press release is a really cheap, if not free, way of getting media coverage for yourself. I put out a press release probably every 1.5 weeks. I come up with something we're doing, like the Fiji launch, something else. We're helping some merchants in Fiji get onto our digital platform. So I did a press release just on that one little thing only, helping the locals. And so that got into about 2 newspapers. That's great. That's all the publicity I need. Giveaways and souvenirs. I think the days of the souvenir shopping at the airport are coming to a close fairly shortly. But if you can get your guests to be making their own souvenirs and have that privilege of using some of your environmental friendly materials to make their own souvenir with your brand on it, and they take that back, that is bragging material. That's influencer material. When they get home, they're going to show everyone, all their neighbors are going to come over. What's that? Oh, I made that at this resort. Wow, what is it? Oh, it's made out of traditional palms. And so getting giveaways that are handmade, not just by your local environment, but handmade by the actual guests, is a great way of getting publicity. Another great way of getting publicity, and again, a very cheap way of doing it, is to run competitions and get sponsorship. Here in Sarawak, they ran a photo competition very recently, Tourism Sarawak, and they got a sponsor from a camera shop for like 10,000 ringgit, which I think is about 120,000 pesos. So it's quite reasonable. And they got thousands of photographers going there and taking pictures and putting the pictures up online to the Tourism Sarawak website. And they got videos and they got blogs and they got a huge amount of publicity by just running a very simple competition. So there's lots of easy ways to do that around your environment, around your hometown, and get some local sponsors or some government sponsors in beside you and just run something really interesting and run something competitive. Or join. There's a lot of sports activities going on and marathons and cycling races. So join into one of those and get your publicity linked to one of those sports events, one of those competitive events. Again, a really simple, easy way to get some publicity. Now, online. And Dr. Lim covered a lot of this just previously, so I'm not going to spend too much time here, but I do just want to emphasize a couple of things. Research and tracking online is key. Do your research, and the internet is a vast, vast universe, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, like the real universe, expanding all the time. But we spend a huge amount of our time, 6 odd hours a day, online in all these various levels. No surprises. The biggest on the internet are the Facebooks, the YouTubes, the WhatsApps, 3 billion users, et cetera, So that's where you need to be. And how do you get on there and use it? I know Dr. Lim gave you some great suggestions before about how to use some of those things. So I'm not going to dwell too much here. How much time do we actually spend looking at things? TikTok is the master of this. It's one of the new entrants, but we spend on average 23 hours a month looking at TikTok videos. And that's a lot of time. YouTube's close behind. So the key here is video. TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp. We look at these for hours and hours and hours when there's a video. When it's just text, we tend to read it and flick it on or pass it on to somebody. When there's a video attached to it, wow. We sit there and we watch the video for hours, obviously. So the key to online marketing in this sense is to make sure you have video content. And TikTok's very expensive to advertise, but you can make your own TikTok video with a few dance movements and a few other things like that. You can do that for free and post that on there. You've got to be careful about advertising that way because TikTok will kick you off and say you're advertising. But if you do a subtle thing about you're walking around your resort saying, here's what we're doing, meet my staff, meet my cook, meet my cleaner, here's what we do sustainably, the rain's pouring out here, was a thunderstorm here with me in Malaysia at the moment, the rain's coming down, here's how we collect the rain and reuse it. If you do that type of a video, you get a lot of coverage and you get a lot of interest, and it's not advertising, but it really is because you've got your brand there. So it's a really great way of using the online resources. And of course, be very cognizant of who's looking online. We tend to think about the internet and the universe still as being people much younger than ourselves. I tell you that's not true. If you look at these surveys, WhatsApp between males and females, ages 35 and above. Instagram tends to be used by those 35 and below. Facebook, right across the board, Facebook's used still by a lot of older people. So there's a you've got to understand your demographics of who's looking at these different channels and take advantage of those. There's a lot of information. I just grabbed this information straight off the web. This is a digital report that comes out every 6 months, I think it is. There's a lot of research you can do online before you start spending any money and doing anything. Get a couple, what I do, I just hire some university interns. They cost me a few dollars a month. They want the job and they want my brand on their resume when they go out and get a real job. And I just hire them to do a whole lot of internet research for me. And of course, my children, who are in their 20s and 30s, they used to, when they were in their teenage, they used to do a lot of this research for me for free. But they now recognize that you can get paid for this, and they say, "Daddy, you got to pay me for it." So no way. The last sort of statistic I want to share with you is mobile. bookings on travel, again, post-pandemic and even pre-pandemic, the number of bookings going up on mobile, and ecotourism fits into the tourist activities attractions segment of travel. 50% now of your bookings are going to be coming through the mobile sector, and you've got to be aware of screen size. So when we're talking about, you're looking at the big screen, seeing me up on the big screen now, you've got a huge screen, you can put a lot of information. When you get onto a desktop or a laptop computer, you've got quite a bit of screen on an iPad or a device. When you get to a mobile phone, you've only got 1 or 2 inches of space to get that information across. So you're going to be very careful about what you're trying to say, the format you're saying it in, and the space you've got to say it in. So be very aware that mobile is going to become your key booking channel. So you've got to be able to design your publicity, design your media for mobile. So keys to being online, as I said before, do your research and do your tracking before you go out and hire any expensive online media people who are going to, in my view, rip you off and take a lot of your money, and you're going to be very disappointed in results. You can do a lot of this research yourself and do a lot of tracking yourself. Some of the buzzwords you need to understand: search engine optimization. Basically what that's saying is that Google has the internet completely wrapped up by itself. And when we put information on the internet, we have to change our English language to be keywords that Google, with their algorithms, will search. And therefore, we can't even tell a real story on Google because it won't search it. You've got to use special words. You've got to use special words in special places. So Google has its own language, and you've got to be able to optimize that to be able to get on page 1 of Google. Otherwise, you're on page 500 or something on the internet search. Click-through rates. When you put something on your website or on your app which says click here, search here, book here, click-through rates is when people click on that action button and it goes through to the next section. So how attractive are those things you're offering them? They click through on that. The bounce rate is the opposite of that. People who come to your website, people who come to your app, download it, look at it and go, gone. They bounce off and go somewhere else. You've lost them. So why? And that's important to track that, because that could be 40, 50%. You've got to understand, you spend all this money to put up a beautiful website and spend money to people to do it. Why are people not staying on it? And that's what you've got to understand here. Engagement rate, who likes you, how many people share you, how many Facebook likes do you have, how many Facebook hearts do you have, and your reach, your maximum audience. This is a bit of marketing agencies will tell you, oh, we got to reach 5 million people, 3 million people. Honestly, they can't, and they won't. Unless you're one of those top influencers where you've got 1 million followers. The reach is going to be quite local. It's going to be tens of thousands of people if you're lucky. So don't get hung up over the reach. Just try and keep it really, really, the key parts here, engaging and relevant, and that will get you sufficient reach. And so if you're going on to, and you need to be consistent about this, Facebook is a great medium, but spending money on Facebook becomes quite expensive. So if you go into the Facebook groups, there are weekend travel groups, there are local school holiday groups that are groups of parents get together, and it's 500 or 600 parents, and they get on a Facebook group and they talk about where they're going for their holidays. If you can get into these groups and you can carry a conversation, tell a story in these groups. You cannot advertise, but you can simply say, have you guys heard about this great ecotourism facility down in, and you can start that conversation without being a pushy advertiser. And you need to do that day by day, week by week. You need to be consistently doing that, not just putting one Facebook post and saying, let me wait and see. You've got to be doing it continually. The UX, the user experience, you have to be talking about interesting things and get their attention without being a pushy advertiser. And of course, tracking and analyzing that. There are lots of tools online, and there's a lot of people that can help you track and analyze how you're going with that. Because ultimately, your ultimate tracking tool is who walks in your door buying your product or using your service. Okay, on to my favorite subject at the moment, artificial intelligence. And so this has been around for about 20 years. And I did just very, very briefly, in the old days, artificial intelligence was very much about mathematical algorithms. What if? If this happens, then this will happen. A equals B plus C squared, those types of things. Then it moved to the second phase of a little bit more advanced algorithms came out, and I call this the Netflix era. So if you happen to go on Netflix and like my wife did a couple of months ago and watch the zombie movie, then for the next month, I got Netflix recommending me zombie movies every time I turned it on. So that's just a pattern recognition. So if you do something, it recognizes the pattern, and therefore it will predict that you'll do that again. You watch another zombie movie. Now this great OpenAI and all these new contextual AI machines that come out, and they do what we call causation. And so they look at the patterns and they ask, why is that pattern occurring? Why do you go out and have a Jollibee burger every Saturday morning? Why does your family go and do that? And so what's the pattern, and why is the cause of that reason? And so they look at what's going to happen next and answer the question why. And I've been working with a great team out of Massachusetts, and one of the products I've released for the New York Stock Exchange is predicting stock movements, what's going to happen next and why, with incredible accuracy. Really, really accurate to say, oh, I got to buy that share now and make some money on it. And so these are types of things that this new AI is looking at. And of course, ChatGPT is one of those new types of stories. And what I love about it is Google forced us to change our language and put in specific words. These new AI comes out and it goes back in history to be caveman. We got to start telling stories again, because it picks up all the stories and puts the stories into screen text, not just facts and figures. So I think this is really great, because we were becoming online, we were becoming emoji storytellers. When we had to say we love something, we put a heart. When we said we hated something, we had a crying. When we, thumbs up, whatever. And so that was, to me, taking us away from what travel and tourism is all about, stories and experiences. And so now I love this new AI, because it begins to pick up these stories and retell them in different ways. And so using technology, Dr. Lim talked a little bit about this, but augmented reality, if you've got an ecotourism facility that has some skeletons, has some old buildings, has some really interesting history, you can use augmented reality, which is just taking bits of these old stuff and then putting a modern scene around it. You can use this to put out videos and put out things for people to do when they come there with their own smartphones. Most smartphones can do augmented reality situations. IKEA, you can go to IKEA and get the app, and actually you can do an augmented reality of putting IKEA furniture in your home. So there's a lot of good apps out there, and it doesn't cost a lot of money to do this for your media. There's a couple of these actually, you can do a lot of free work on some of these apps that will create an AR app for you and create some really great stuff. The cousin of that, of course, is VR, virtual reality, where it's completely in a virtual world. You do need glasses, you do need machines for this, and it's a little bit more expensive to do that. But Thomas Cook did a really great VR fly around of the New York City, Manhattan skyline, a couple of months ago, and their bookings for New York, for people flying out of India, is Thomas Cook India, went up over 100, almost 200%. So when it's used correctly, it's done really well. Airlines are using VR to give you a complete sight and sound of first class. If you've never traveled first class travel before, they give you a VR of first class. Hotels are using it to give a VR runaround of their suites and things like that. So it's a really quite a useful tool. And again, there's some great tools out there, Google Earth VR, YouTube VR. A lot of this is free that you can use, and you can take some videos and take some pictures and put together and patch together a VR sequence and put online, and people download that and use it. It's really quite simple. It doesn't take a lot of technical skills to do a lot of this. And again, if you get stuck, just use your kids or use some interns for younger people to do this for you. Chat. Now, 5 or 6 years ago, chat box were really obnoxious, and if you went to a website and had a chat box on it, you'd certainly click off it. But now they've become very interactive, very personalized. This is the Edwardian Hotel in London, and this chat box is called Edward, of course, and it even has an English accent, and it will give you feedback. Like once you order something off the menu, it'll say, that's a very good item. May I suggest you have a glass of champagne with that, in an English accent. I can't do it very well because I've got a cold, but so these chatbots are getting really, really smart, and you can use them for a lot of great things. And it's very cheap to do this. You have to hire staff if you want a 24-hour customer service assistant, and you have to hire multilingual staff to do it as well. It costs you a lot of money. A chatbot, after a couple of $100s, you can have a chatbot doing this 24 hours a day, giving personalized recommendations, giving customized itineraries, reading out the FAQs for people who need to visit your site, upselling other items for you, giving trip feedback and everything. And you train the bot. You can train the bot in your accent. You can train the bot to be responsive in certain ways. It's a very, very smart way of doing things now. And so this is a really great use of that. And again, there are tools online, Thomas, TourOp, that are curated planet, which will actually, for a few dollars, will help you create your own personalized bot for your website or for your application. So a great way of using technology to save you money and time and keep working while you're sleeping. So, all right, Dr. Mina asked me to do these talk for the ecotourism industry. So I thought, why? Okay, ecotourism in the Philippines. Let's ask Google, what is ecotourism experience in the Philippines? What should I do? And of course, Google came up with 1 million results in 44 seconds. Oh my goodness. What on earth? And of course, all the first page of Google is all paid advertising. So I've got to go scroll, and oh, what a headache, what a headache. So now I ask my new best friend, ChatGPT, what is the best ecotourism experience in the Philippines? And within less than a minute, it came up with these 5 really neat suggestions with a little story behind each one. Not a lot. And that gives me, the tourist, an opportunity to go through it. Oh, I need to understand a bit more about Opal Island. Let's copy that. I go back to Google and I find Opal Island. So these new AI, ChatGPT, can be used to present your product, to write your product for you. I also, a bit lazy, I said, hey, ChatGPT, help me promote my ecotourism business online. Again, 2 minutes later, it came up with these 4 or 5 things to do. Dr. Lim gave you most of these in social media, collaborations, SEO, email marketing, all these types, influencer, all these types of things. But it gives you a guideline. It gives you a really fast, immediate guideline. And you can train ChatGPT in these smart programs now. You say, I need to promote this for the elderly sector of tourism. I need to promote this for the millennials. I need to promote this for younger, whatever it is. You can train the question and it will give you more and more exact results. And this is a great way to write all your media, all your press releases. It saves you time and scratching your head and thinking, what on earth do I say? This gives you, it's not perfect, but it gives you a great starting point, and then go through and modify this and make it your own. And of course, ChatGPT is not the only one out there. Microsoft Bing, there's Chatsonic, there's Bard, there's Perplexity. Jasper is a really interesting one. Jasper is very focused on marketing and advertising. And so you write a question about how to market this, advertise this, and it comes up with a marketing program or an advertising campaign for you. It costs you a few dollars to do this, but believe me, paying $100 to Jasper is much cheaper than paying thousands of dollars to a marketing agency. So there's a lot of good tools out there for you to use. Finally, I wanted to end with the age-old debate online and in the metaverse, and that is, if I was there in person, I'd ask you for a quick survey, who's a dog lover, who's a cat lover? And I guess half the audience are going to say, we love dogs, and the other half are going to say, we love cats. But take a look at this statistic, this crazy statistic. There are 6 billion websites about dogs and 5.6 billion websites about cats. That's almost 12 billion websites about animals. If you have an ecotourism site and you have animals running around your site, you know what my best advice is? Feature those animals on your media. You've got 12 billion websites out there featuring animals. So ecotourism, animals, fits really nicely together. You get a lot of free publicity out of putting a couple of cats or dogs on your, not just your own pretty face, but some animals in your ecotourism site. So there is a very fast run through from my 40 years of my suggestions on what might help you. I hope I've been able to give you some hints and some shares. Go on to ChatGPT, start using that as a personal assistant and to help you out. There's some great things and it's getting better and better every day. Right. Thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Thank you. Zoom you went and Zoom you stopped. You see? And this is the quantum media, right? Thank you very much, Greg. You know,
My pleasure.
I'm sure everybody went up, and then now we have landed, and we have all the options, you know, understanding that, yes, we can use pets, right? And of course, we have to be very careful about that as well, right? Okay,
Wonderful.
so
Wonderful.
thank you very much. I think how to engage quantum media in ecotourism, I think you've given us a lot of options, and the options are our choices, right? So it all depends on the situation. It all depends on how fast your Wi-Fi is, the resolution is, and things like that. You know, we have to consider a lot of things. Thank you, Greg, once again, and Mingalaba. Yeah, please hang
Thank you
on.
so much.
Yeah, please hang on if you have the time. I'm sorry I kept you waiting. Yeah. Thank you. So, next, what we have been looking forward to also is our dearest Dr. Meena T. Gabor. You know, I'm sorry, I'm really apologize. But I kept you waiting, not we. No, it's I. Okay, so I always feel very happy when I see a person who is a model for me. Yeah, and thank you very much, Dr. Meena, for organizing everything. And Dr. Meena will be talking about the development authentic ecotourism tour packages, the power of storytelling. And of course, it's always very, very appropriate that I share the profile. Of course, we know Dr. Meena very well, but I can be very, if I say very briefly, and if I leave out anything, please forgive me. Dr. Meena T. Gabor was the Secretary of the Department of Tourism, DOT, from 1995 to 1998. So that's when I joined the ministry in 1995. So you can guess a little bit now. And Undersecretary from 1989 to 1994, Undersecretary of the Department of Trade and Industry, and she is the founder and first president of the Center for International Trade, Exhibitions and Missions, CITAM, CITAM, the export promotions arm of the DTI from 1983 to 1989. So the honor of receiving the Philippine Legion of Honor Award. This is the highest award bestowed by the government, the Philippines government, to an individual, and she has been, she's the recipient of this Philippine Legion of Honor Award for her exemplary contributions to the development of tourism in the Philippines. And this is the outstanding performance as Tourism Secretary. So in the recent past, you know, she has been she's been driving tourism. When I say driving tourism, I don't think so. She really drives cars. And she's the chairman of the Philippines-Canada Business Council. In the last 2021, I'm skipping, a tourism award by SCAL International was bestowed to her. And she was instrumental in the declaration of ecotourism celebration by the UN in 2002. And this is a reference that we have always made hold of. She's a holder of master's degree from UP in business administration and a doctorate in humanities major in entrepreneurship from the International University of Entrepreneurship in Hawaii. So, you know, whenever I see Dr. Minar, she's very colorful and she loves the sun, right? So can I give the floor to Dr. Minar, really loud and applause for Dr. Minar and for the others.
Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right. Before I start my piece, I just wanted to remind you about three things. One is that almost all of the speakers today are not actually being paid, and it was a request from the AEN. And so I'd like to say that all of the AEN speakers have given their free assistance in the form of their learnings and experiences. So can we give them a round of applause, please? And may I ask them, from the beginning, I asked you to stand up. May I ask you to stand up today, all the foreign speakers from the Asian Ecotourism Network. Yes, please. Thank you very much. And the second time is that, the second one is that I would like to give special applause to the Department of Tourism. I think it's represented here by Undersecretary Buen Suceso, to give back to the DOT our big thank you, for actually supporting the Ecotourism Forum. And this is a very important thing. We wanted this to go through, and DOT made it possible for us. Salamat po. And the third one, tonight, after this, we're going to have a nice dinner and a lot of entertainment to showcase the Philippines. And that will be hosted by the Tourism Promotions Board of the Department of Tourism. So you're all welcome. Everybody's welcome to tonight's dinner. So we'll see you there. In the meantime, let me just speak on what was assigned to me. And that is authentic ecotourism experience for tour packages. One of my favorite, And I'd like to show also some of the destinations around Asia on the different pictures that we have put together. It was perfect, because after Greg Duffel mentioned all the different parts of doing our media production and making our promotions geared towards marketing our ecotourism sites. Now let's look at what are we going to give the tourists, So first of all, let me just ask this question. Who is your target market? The first thing that we have to look at when we have our site is who is our target market? And this is very important. The first step in developing your ecotourism target markets is making sure that they are known to you. And many of them are the affluent, educated, and they're actually very important. They're environmentally conscious. And most of all, the Gen Zs, they're actually looking at destinations. They're the first to tell you about vegan. My nephews and my nieces are asking for vegan, And here we are eating everything, And then they're the one asking for, where are the eco sites? What are the eco sites, no? So you can see that there is a new target market that's opening up, and a big one at that. And of course, we are looking at niche markets. When we say, who is your target market? Then you're looking at niche markets. The guys that will go up the mountains, the guys that are trekking, they're bicycling, they're actually doing all of these things that are necessary to be in contact with nature. And the next one is research. Conducting research on the destination. This is something that you have to look at. You have to see what you have. You have to see what is there in the site, what you have to sell, and important, what are the ecological and cultural things that are in the site. Every time we have a course, one of the things we teach is that, are you sure you know your sites? And we talk about metaphysical presence, I remember Hitas telling us, you have to know the sites, and you have to know the metaphysical aspects of your site, where everything is located. Do you have wild birds? Do you have all the different forms, the floras, the faunas, and everything? But there are many more things than that. Sometimes, in doing our eco sites, you find that there are historical pieces. We were one time in one of the forests, and we were told that during the Japanese occupation, many of our presidents actually went to that area. And at that time, some of them were just individuals, not yet presidents, but they've done the trekking. and they actually saw that many of the pieces of historical tracks that they have seen are in the areas. And some of them were actually pieces of the stones where they ate, the trees where they made their, pledges, And some of these things are important to our destinations. Then we have, the next one is actually developing a sustainable tourism plan of your site. We make marketing plans, we make master development plans, but we forget to make a plan for our ecotourism sites. We need to have an ecotourism site plan. And this site plan has to be translated into the tour packages, to make sure that they actually encompass what is in the site plan. Now, there are many things that we should include there, waste management. We should include, for example, conserving our energy. How about our carbon emissions and the impact of environment on the local communities? The tour packages should also benefit the local economy. And I remember that at one time when we were partnering with some local and fostering communities, we decided that we should actually do a community-based sustainable tourism training programs for them. And we found out that they were just so hungry on what they should be doing in an area. So a training on community-based and sustainable-based tourism packages are important for the people to understand what their role is in the whole aspect of the tour package. And maybe another thing is, what is an authentic experience? What is a tourism authentic experience? An authentic experience should be created to provide a unique and meaningful experience for tourists. This can be done by offering activities that are specific to the destination. You can do hiking. You can do, for example, bird watching or cultural tours. And then the packages almost should include educational components. In fact, Greg was mentioning that even in quantum media, we can include educational components, which becomes actually your media package. And that is so important even when we do our own tour package. The education part of learning should always be part of the learning. For example, we were in Subic one time, and we had the ATAS who were doing jungle survival courses. And they brought us down to the lake, and they had this honey production. And we said, what is this honey all about? Because it's colored green. And in some places, they are colored yellow. In some places, it's black. In some places, it's red. And we found out that the honeybees, and this is part of their story, that the honeybees actually take the kind of food that is near in the area. And so when they eat the herbal plants that include greeneries, the color of the honey is green. And according to them, Mom, part of the honey is kept for the community. Half of that is not sold because this is used by the community for their medical requirements. And only half is actually sold to the clientele, to people that join the tour packages. But we didn't know that. We didn't know that these are medical vines that the honeys are actually eating. And so it goes on. And I remembered also my grandmother, when we had honey in the garden, and we tried to shoo it away, and she would get angry. Don't shoo them away, because it's good luck. But that was a long time ago. My grandmother knew that it's good luck. Nobody gets sick, we're healthy. But she did not know that, scientifically, if you have the bees in your garden, normally they just get into your garden, you have a balanced biodiversity. That means your area is in good balanced biodiversity. So actually, when you have the bees anywhere in the world where you find them, you have good balanced biodiversity. You have the right water, the good soil, and the food that they drink, and the food that they eat, So that is something that is part of the tour package. These are the stories that you have to tell. Then, providing good service is a must. The tour package should provide actually high-quality service. When we say high-quality service, it doesn't mean that it has to be expensive. It means that you have to do the best you can in the circumstance, no? So it depends on the kind of experience that the person will have. You know, it's the kind of lifetime experience that he will bring back outside of the tour package, that he brings back to the community he comes back from. He brings it to his family, to his friends, that will bring people back to your area. And that is what is important. You know, part of having good service is actually having good tour guides. You know, it's important when you say, I have good service, the tour guides are actually in good places, you know, and their training is perfect. They know what they're doing. They have a complete profile of the area, and they know that the things that they're saying is not something that is just make-believe, that it is happening on the ground. Then we must be able to do marketing and promotions. I think we have done. I think Greg has done a great job on that area. Let me just say about assessing your environmental impact. It is important that we assess the environmental impact of the tour package. This includes understanding the carrying capacity of the site. You know, you must know whether you have brought in the right number of people. You must know that you are actually handling a tour package that is okay for everybody. I don't know if it's in Suka Rainforest, Albert. I'm not too sure if it is in Taiwan, Lucian, that when I went there, when I asked one of the guides or somebody, and they said, we have two routes when we do our tour packages. We have the regular route, and we have an alternative route. We don't ask people to continue the regular route for a long time because it also touches on the damages for biodiversity. They said, we only do it after so many times we change the route. So they take another route for the same tour package so that they now open up a new destination. So I think it's important to remember that, you know, there's a tendency for us, if there's a route for a tour package, we continue doing it until we destroy the biodiversity, but we should not. No, we should have a secondary route for tour guiding. It is very important that we actually assess also the, we should be able to assess that we are not doing any damage to our renewable sources or actually reducing waste, you know. I remembered in Mount Makiling in the Philippines, there was a time when we would go trekking and people will be complaining because they see waste all over the place, no? Bottles, everything. And then they will stay overnight and leave everything. And so there was I remember that during my time, we asked everyone that was trekking into our Mount Makiling, which is a very important mountain, and we told them about the dangers that they're posing for everybody, and also the danger of the carbon, you know, footprints. And now, if you go to Mount Makiling, you will see that you will see all the, you know, the little areas where you put your waste, and somebody just picks it up, which is very important for waste management. We must be able to actually do offerings of responsible tourism options. We must have, for example, what are some of the options? Some of them are the homestays. In Decon, is Ari here? Ari, you're perfect for that, and I think some of our other destinations have done that well. And I think in some areas in the Philippines, we have started to do homestays, especially in areas that is near the eco sites. This is very important to our tour packages to have options that you can offer. They might want to stay. They might want to start planting some things that they have seen. You can probably teach them to do weaving, and they might want to just stay overnight and have a place for them to do that. It's also important probably that transport is nearby. that there is availability of transport. Not necessarily within the area, but within a certain radius of your eco site, there must be available transport to bring people in and out. This is one of the important aspects of having a nice experience after a nice tour package. We must be able to also include probably recycling and probably show reducing of waste materials. So in some areas, I know that they have started to work on natural fibers that are actually taken from the trees that go down. Like for example, the coconut. At a certain part, the coconut branch gets a little bit brown and it goes down, and people start making walistingting. In the Philippines, they call it walistingting, or the midrib of the coconut is taken out, and you actually make them into what? How do you call that? The brooms, yeah, the sticky brooms. And this is something that people should be actually given experiences. I remember that National Geographic one time came to a coconut farm in the Philippines, and when he went to see me in my office, he said, "Mina, do you know this?" And he takes out from his coat a bottle of the coconut jam. And I said, "Of course I know that." He says, "Well, we just went to a coconut farm, and nearby, we were asked to do so many things, no? They were asked to cut the coconut. When the coconut came down, they opened it up, they drank it, and when afterwards, after drinking it, they were asked to do, to actually grate the coconut, and then later on, they were asked to cook the coconut right there. So the result of that was the coco jam, and the coco jam was actually their best experience. Again, of course, Greg was saying, a little bit of that they can bring home is something that people always look forward. This is my own. I did this, and it's that experience that makes things happen. We also, for example, when Boracay was closed a few months ago, it was a big learning experience for many of the other resorts in the Philippines, but I think the result was actually very good. And the happening in that area was from the major sacrifice and challenge that they came through because of the lack of business. But afterwards, when they came back, the business started to come in, no? And they have started to really showcase the best of Boracay. And I think that experience is important. So it's important actually that when people go to an eco site, that these sites are kept clean, and not having all of that waste, running around. When I went to Costa Rica, and we had the chance to go to the rainforest, we looked at the results of how they were able to bring those the zip chairs going up to the top of the mountain. And I said, they must have really torn down a lot of trees to bring this down. No, Mina, it took us 10 years to bring the zip up to the mountain because every piece of that zip line was brought by hand without breaking a branch of the tree. So it took them 10 years to be able to get that zip on top. And that is something that really, when I was sitting down and I learned about it, when you want to do things right, it doesn't matter how it takes as long as it's right, no? And so when we do our destination, for example, in eco sites, and we want to do something, let's not just cut down trees or do things, no? Because there are many ways of bringing our things forward without actually wasting our raw materials. The other area that I'd like to mention is, how do we collaborate with conservation organizations, when you're doing your eco sites? Collaborating with these organizations, it enhances our tourism experience and actually provides us the research that we need to conduct, all of these floras and faunas that are found in the areas. When we were up in Abra, who's from Who's from Region 2? Region 2, anybody from here? There you are. What's the name of the famous area where Norma Santos died, you know? In Isabela. There are three areas in the Philippines that are, to me, are the most famous for our forest reserves. And one of them is in Isabela. And this is the place where nobody can go through except through the water. You know, have to go through the ocean. And they've been trying to get across so that they'll be able to come through. And by having that main highway, we'll easily get the loggers to cut the trees, you know. And so we've been actively against that. And that's where I found, when we went there, really a 4 to 5 meter jade vine tree, you know. It was glittering under the sun. And it was fabulous. You know, I've never seen flowers of 5 meters long flowing from the tree, you know. And it was such an experience that whole experience alone is something to remember. And catching the shrimps by the river that was flowing, you know, and the shrimps just was there and waiting for us to catch them because they're not known to many people, so they're not, you know, afraid. and we were there catching the shrimps, no? So you can see when an area is kept pure and clean and all of that, you will realize that there's so much more enjoyment that you see in the area of actually floras and faunas and all of these beautiful things of nature. We must also provide for continuous monitoring and evaluation. You know, this is very important because we must ensure that the tour package that we created today are still relevant in the next few months or the next month or the next year. There could be a possibility that the tour package has already changed in its economic impact, in its social impact, and other things. So it's very important that the tour packages, because when we do tour packages, we think, oh, it's done. We have a tour package now, we can sell, and we can sell forever, you know. No, once you have done it, you have to really look over and assess the important aspects of the tour package. See that it is relevant when you did it today, and relevant as you look at it a year after. We must integrate indigenous knowledge into our tour package. This is very important too. When we are looking at our packages, well, he mentioned about bones and things like that. But when we look at our indigenous package, it's very important that we looked at there are areas in the Philippines, for example, and I don't know in other countries, but in our areas, we have areas in our forests that are sacred because the indigenous people do their ceremonies there, and therefore you are not supposed to do anything in that area. You're not even supposed to get into the area. So there are many places like this that are beyond the schedules of tour packages. So what is important is that when we have areas like this, we actually take good care and make sure that they are known to the people, that they are not for everybody. And then we must also integrate some of the indigenous knowledge of the people in the area. For example, because of many experiences, they can tell you actually when rain is coming. I don't know in other areas, but I think we have had cases where they look at the weather, they feel the wind, and they say, oh, in a few moments, you know, we might have a shower or something. But because of experience, they're able to actually detect all of this, no? And sometimes this can be part of your tour package storytelling, you know, how the indigenous people and the local people look at everyday experience as part of the experience. We must also be able to look at how we can conserve the efforts of everybody in an area. The tour package should support conservation efforts. For example, maybe donating a part of the profit to conservation, and maybe we can also support some of the local conservation efforts of the people. Additionally, tourists can be educated and conservation efforts can be made a responsible tourism behavior. You know, if they know that a certain part of their payments for tour packages are designated for conservation effort, and they see that the effort is actually put there, where people can say, oh, these were donated by our visitors. Now we have a place where you can stay, or a place, you know, or we have more products that we can sell. When you have an area where you can actually show to the people the result of the conservation funding that you've given, the people will just give, you know. So I think that's something that we should look at. We must also ensure safety and security. This is very common to all of us in every area, making sure that the safety and security of the tourists should be a top priority when we're developing our tour packages. This includes making sure that we have adequate security measures, such as trained guides that can actually give us, in a moment's notice, what to do if something happens. I remember that it can happen that you have a flood. All of a sudden, there's flood in an area. Where will you go? How will you handle it? You know, I mean, these are important measures. For example, if you're doing a tour package and somebody slips, you know, and what do you do? You know, and we have had training on these aspects, because we have had doctors who have been hiking and training, and over time they have experience on how to handle it. And maybe it's important that we look into the area of security and safety when it comes to tour guiding and training of tour guides. We should also be, maybe part of that is that we should also inform beforehand our tourists about some of the hazards in the area, you know. There might be an area where it may be a deep ravine, you know, you have to walk on single files, and they have to be careful. They have to know exactly what attire they have to use, what kind of rubber shoes or whatever kind of things that they have to be prepared with. But I think that when you have a tour package and you're going to trekking on certain areas that may have some hazards, they should be known to the tourists that you are actually inviting. We must also do, I guess, building partnerships with organizations is also building partnerships with not only the organizations, but with local restaurants, no? With local accommodations. We must be able to do things that are sourcing their food close by, you know. We must be able to have partnerships, for example, with government organizations that can help promote the tour package. We should be able to make sure that when you have the restaurants and the hotels also being guided on what is important for them to become ecotourism friendly and sustainable, we should be able to help each other. You know, we should not keep information within ourselves. If we know something that has to be done, must be shared with owners, must be shared with owners of restaurants and facilities. We must be able to do cultural exchanges. I hope that while you're here, you may be able, you know, our partners in AEN may be able to do partnership with Silang. Let's do some cultural exchange, no? And maybe we should be able to do maybe even a sister city, you know, so that this becomes our point of entry into many of the other eco sites that are available in Silang. There's so much to see in Silang. We have the Maragondon River and some of the places that they have, for example, some beautiful waterfalls as well. So far, we have not seen it because we've been here, but we hope to be able to bring you on a tour on Sunday. I've already talked to Mayor Anarna if we can have a little tour on Sunday so that people can see what Silang is all about. we should be able to support the local economy. You know, we must be able to support the local economy. We must source our products and services and promote local businesses. And we must be able to see to it that in our tour package, we are able to improve the jobs for the people in the area. You know, I remembered seeing one of I think it was Indecon Ari, no, and you made the presentation. And one of the things that really struck me there is that when you develop the job opportunities in the local sites, in the eco sites, keep in mind they are not really like us that could really do multitasking at a moment's notice, you know. And they had to do it in a small batches. And I think what is important here is that if you're able to break the entire tour package into small batches and put people in charge of them, we're actually expanding the, the job opportunities for everybody to be able to care for a tour package. No? And another thing is, of course, including adventure activities in the tour packages. People love to be, a little risk sometimes is interesting. So you can have zip lines, you can have actually hiking and all of that, and it's very important. We must be able to do this in doing our tour packages. And in every tour package, remember that the storytelling of the things that you have prepared, the things that you see, the floras that are, good to eat, I remember that the ATAs, when we went at trekking, when they pee, they ask permission on the grass and the stones that will be wetted, So again, you can see how they actually prepare and foster that kind of respect for nature. And that's something that we have to be careful when we trek. And important that we tell the story as we see it, and we don't make stories that we only do ourselves. No, it's very important. And so these are the story of tour packages is actually the stories that you will tell. It is a lifetime of experience that people will be bringing home with them. So I'd like to show some of the sites in the different areas in ASEAN. This is familiar to Albert. So we see this actually in the Borneo Eco Tours. And this is actually in Sabah. And again, bird watching. We started, I think, bird watching today. I don't know if some people were able to join, but we have 52 species in our forest here. And sometimes we're lucky we can get 76 that we see. But this is actually part of the experience. Here you have from Australia, and then we have different places. When you see the turtles actually roaming around and in the sea when you do your dives, very important. Okay. We have Curie Travel in Thailand. What they do is actually when they have the whole ceremony that they do before they get into the travel, into the tour package, they create a whole ceremonial series for people to come in before they go into the forest as a blessing, that their trip will be very successful. And people appreciate that, and they get into it, no? Next. Of course, we have our Palawan Eco Tour. One of the most important sites here is, of course, the Nido. That's why it's called El Nido, because of the birds that you use for Nido soup. That's why it's called Nido soup, because the most important bird that does it is actually in El Nido, Palawan. And then we have the ecotourism in Laos. We have who's from Laos here. There you are. Which is this area again? The big Oh, okay. And then, of course, we have next, Taman Negara National Park in Malaysia. Again, you can see how the connecting routes are made in the different areas. Try to make sure that when you build up in the area, you're not trekking into the biodiversity, but using also some of the materials that are strong, that people can come in, and that it is using natural materials of the area. Next. Then we have Halong Bay in Vietnam. Here we are. You can see how clean the water is. Very nice. And next, we have Kinabalu Park in Malaysia. And then we have the Bali and Bali in Indonesia. It's so beautiful. I've seen this, the different huts that are on the mountain, when you take a look at it. And when people trek to the area, you can stay overnight, by the way, Ari. You can stay overnight in this place. Then you have, of course, our Banawe rice terraces in the Philippines. The way they preserve the water, do you know how they actually bring water from rice terraces to one another? Is because of the tree that is called the muyongs. They're on top of the mountain. It's a huge tree. Maybe it will take about 10, sometimes 10, 12 people to hug the tree. When it rains, the tree gets all the water, and it brings down during summer slowly the water from the muyongs. That actually brings water to the rice terraces. And then you have the Chiang Mai in Thailand. And here you have the buffaloes and all the other places that are exciting to go. We must be able to do a tour package with all of the other as AEN members. And that's some of the places that we have to show you today. And I'd like to say good afternoon. And we hope that the last 2 days have been very fruitful, intellectually for all of you, and we hope to be able to see you in the next round of the next Eco Forum. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mina. Everything is so connected since yesterday, from session 1 till the last session today. And if you really think of, I hope you remember yesterday, and I hope you remember this morning, and I hope you remember the session 6, the first speaker, second speaker, third speaker, fourth speaker. Sometimes it's very difficult to remember, but they will come back, when we really start working on, because it's not only on paper, it comes from the mind as well, and the mindset, the changing trends and everything else. And of course, one thing I took note of is doing things right from the start. And if we can think of that, there's a philosophy behind all this. And when we are doing ecotourism, the sense of safety and security, it's not just safety and security. And I like Dr. Mina saying, the sense of safety and security, because we ourselves are going through that. We promote, but whatever we promote, we market, and whatever we market, we've got to think of the sense of safety and security, what precautions, because in the post-COVID, beyond COVID, everybody is very much concerned about the steps, and the healthy protocols are very much important. And I suppose everything will be connected in our minds, and then when we really put down or get to do something, we'll think about all this. Just one thing is that it's the end, it's almost the end, but it's the beginning of what we do. And tomorrow, of course, I would like to remind you that each one of us who have not spoken today, for example, I will be talking on the ecotourism development in Myanmar. And of course, like Bhutan will be talking. There are other, I don't remember much about, we do have the agenda. And so that's one of the things. So I'd like to hand over the floor to the MC Joe, because he's waiting anxiously. And there is a lot of things to be done before we give a final applause. Final applause, of course, to all the speakers again, which Dr. Meena has done very well. Thank you very, very much. And there will be more applauses to be done. And Joe, please.
Before we're going to have the final closing, there's a group that's trying to synthesize. We are sitting here, but they're sitting at the back, trying to summarize the key points of the presentations. May I now invite our friend from CERCA? Okay. After this synthesis, the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, they made a collage of everything that's happening here, and they're going to present that in a video. It's a short one, but you'll see what they caught in the camera.
Thank you very much, Sir Jojo. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Nova Ramos, and I head the Training for Development Unit of CERCA, and CERCA stands for Southeast Asian Regional Center for Graduate Study and Research in Agriculture. So, is everyone still awake? Really? Sure? Can we all stand up for a few minutes? Okay. Now move your head to the right. Head to the right, your right, head to the left, head upward, head downward, and then move it in a circular motion 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Okay, everyone's awake now? Thank you. Okay, let's all sit down. Okay, this is the simple illustration of what happened the whole day today. We had 3 sessions covering business, education, and technology marketing and promotion, and how they are interlinked with ecotourism. Opening session 4, Mr. Roberto Sereno focused on the importance of establishing a code of ethics to promote sustainable ecotourism and help minimize environmental impacts. Citing the case of Mount Makiling Forest Reserve in Los Baños, Philippines, they enforce a leave no trace principle among hikers and campers as a critical contribution to the business of conservation. We can refer to the 1999 Global Code of Ethics for Tourism that provides the comprehensive set of principles assigned to guide key players in tourism development. In Laos, Mr. Inti Duan Savan was witness on how people turned from slash and burn practices to ecotourism work as local guides, cooks, and homestay providers. Converting old heritage sites to museums was also found to be a good business strategy that adds to livelihood opportunities from ecotourism work. In Malaysia, Mr. Albert Tio shared his experiences as a hotelier using the 3-piece bottom line approach of people, profit, and planet. While profit was his initial priority, he eventually refocused the concept of charity to people development to prevent overdependence. Business meets environmental sustainability at his Sukau Rainforest Lodge that is also a haven for educating travelers on sustainable tourism. Speaking of sustainability, Ms. Susan Santos de Cardenas shared with us the importance and benefits of certification in sustainable ecotourism. Being certified gives businesses an edge to access more customers and partners, such as the local government and the local residents themselves. She noted that a good regulatory measure is having a sustainable ecotourism certification, which helps fix ecotourism systems and operational structures that are sustainable in every step of the way. In the fifth session, our speakers covered education for ecotourism. The main point of this session is empowering the locals through capacity building, certification, and equipping us with the tools to measure and monitor our tourism initiatives. Mr. Lim Shou Shin introduced the term marinator, short for marine tourism and coordinator. He said that locals can be specialists as well, as evidenced by the marinators who are certified and licensed in the preservation and development of marine tourism resources. Mr. Kazuhiro Arai cited the case of Hokkaido, Japan, where environmental education for locals and children are key to sustainable ecotourism. A wise-use approach to the management of the national park by capacitating the ecotour guides is a good example of resource efficiency, where guides effectively serve as instructor, interpreter, and facilitator. In Indonesia, Mr. Kuswandono shared with us the challenges on managing the Waikambas National Park. From the changing forest land use to animal conflict and illegal access, these issues can be mitigated, and they showed us some of the good practices they implemented. From rebranding tourism activities to development of zoning map, we learned that challenges can always be met with solutions. He also emphasized the involvement of the local community, and in the panel discussion of Mr. Tony Kanda and Mr. Dicky Porwono, we saw their project on digitalization for ecotourism development and promotion in the Gunung Lusur National Park that strengthened the capacities of the local ecotourism actors. Training and coaching on community-based ecotourism businesses enabled them to make marketing of ecotourism products easier and more accessible. Finally, for session 5, Ms. Chen reminded us of the red flags and dimensions of tourism. She presented the Tourism Development Capacity Index with useful indicators to know where we are and where we are headed. One major reminder from her was to integrate our tourism plans into the local development plans of the government to ensure that the tourism industry gets the resources it needs. The last session for this afternoon tackled technology, marketing, and promotion for ecotourism. Post-COVID-19, a wave of change is needed, including in tourism products. The case of Australia is what Mr. Rod Hillman cited in paving the way for espousing sustainable tourism and attracting international guests to nature and authentic experiences with family, friends, and the locals. A comprehensive targeted campaign relative to this is with focus on marketing themes of nature and culture as primary attractors to travelers. Australian personality of openness and friendliness will create genuine and authentic experiences. Endangered diversity and inclusivity is welcomed. Mr. Donald Patrick Lim presented the business models they adopted, which were brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. Many businesses were forced to close shop, but with Udena Corporation, the restrictions of the pandemic also posed opportunities to innovate. They resorted to business pivots and exercising agile business operations. Mr. Lim identified 4 imperatives for the next digital wave. First, e-commerce, e-services, and e-finances. Second, go deep into linking, where consumers can circumvent or bypass the barriers to shorten the user journey and empower decision-making. Third, maximizing the potential of micro-influencers to help drive businesses. And lastly, exploring the metaverse or Web 3.0 and the new marketing world, including non-fungible tokens or NFTs. Mr. Greg Duffel discussed how to engage quantum media in ecotourism. Radio is a great medium to get feedback and is still being used by younger generation. Billboards are effective advertising means for ecotourism facilities. Magazines are good but expensive medium. Flyers and handouts are eco-unfriendly. Press releases can be uploaded online and get many engagements, but headlines need to be catchy. Giveaways and souvenirs could be self-made using environment-friendly materials. Online media strategies to be successful in ecotourism marketing includes changing language to include keywords for better algorithm search, have engaging and relevant content, and consistent publishing, among others. We may also start exploring the use of artificial intelligence and augmented reality for ecotourism attractions. Chatbots can give personalized recommendations, booking assistance, post-trip feedback, and others. And ChatGPT can also help promote ecotourism business online. And lastly, for session 6, Dr. Mina Gabor enumerated the steps in developing authentic ecotourism tour packages. Identify target markets and look at niche markets, conduct research on the destination, develop a sustainable tourism plan that needs to be in the tour packages, and the tour packages should also benefit the local community, so you have to partner with and capacitate local communities, and this is very important. Create authentic tourism experience with real unique stories, provide high quality service that customers will bring back home, and have good tour guides. assess the environmental impact of the tour package, ensure that there will be no damage to natural resources, offer responsible tourism options such as doing handicrafts, planting, and others, collaborate with conservation organizations, integrate indigenous knowledge into tour packages, and provide opportunities for local interaction, support conservation efforts of the locals, and ensure safety and security of tourists by having trained guides who would know what to do when emergencies happen, provide cultural exchange opportunities as point of entry, and lastly, support local economy and improve the jobs of people in the area and incorporate adventure activities. That's the explanation for this one-page slide. Thank you very much.
So this is the video prepared by ASEAN Biodiversity Center Secretariat.
Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. Good morning! Yesterday it was an exciting day. I think today is going to be a great day for learning.
Achieving resilient and sustainable development, as well as living in harmony with nature, can only be realized through common values, concerted efforts, and sustained commitment of all.
This morning, what I would like to do is to talk about ecotourism in the Philippines, to properly situate us as a fitting start to this forum.
Good morning to our distinguished guests in this first ever Ecotourism Travel Mart. It is my privilege to share with you all the carrying capacity projects of the Ecosystems Research and Development Bureau of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. All stakeholders in ecotourism in this room, we have our own journey, but that journey connected to sustainability. So let us take our journey without only discussing, but with action. Thank you very much. So now let's travel with Ari about Indonesian culture. Please welcome Ari.
As we observe this year's Indigenous Peoples Month and commemorate the 25th anniversary of the signing of the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act. Tamang-tamang panahon ito para patibayin ang ating pundasyon at alalahanin natin at kilalanin natin ang ating pagka-Pilipino.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm round of applause to Dr. Dindong Campina, who's going with us live via Zoom.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big hand to Dr. Teresa Mundita Lim. Most people understand biodiversity as just species, but under the Convention on Biological Diversity, it's not just the variety of species, but also the genetic resources that comprise the species and the ecosystems which they are part of.
Hello, my name is Nina Sue Choi. I'm your currently reigning 2022 Miss Earth, and I'm coming all the way from Seoul, South Korea. I wanted to first share my advocacy. It is mitigating carbon footprints in urbanized areas through sustainable mobility and promoting myself among young generations to live a more ecological lifestyle. Hello, mabuhay, selamat siang, and good day to all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Karina Basrewan, and I'm your Miss Earth Indonesia 2022, and I came all the way from Jakarta, and it is such an honor for me to be here with you all at the first International Ecotourism Travel Mart in Silang, Cavite, the Philippines, to share a little bit about my advocacy in regards to ecotourism and sustainability and how it aligns to what my country has in progress. I'm here to talk to you about the importance of biodiversity and wildlife conservation in ecotourism and how this is evolving in Indonesia.
Mabuhay and magandang hapon to everyone. I am Jenny Rapp, Miss Philippines Earth 2022. And I want to share something that is relevant here in the Philippines and to our culture and youth. And it is something that we're all very interested in, and it's called the 3Bs, which is basketball, boxing, and beauty pageant.
Good morning, everyone, and mabuhay. And happy to see friends from all over the world, the members of IETM, and of course the FCC, and all the lovely people of DOT, DNR, DILG, the Association of Tourism Officers of the Philippines, all in presence. Maraming salamat.
Welcome to the program, Mr. Albert Gill.
It's very important. We have to know that. We have to be climate resilient here in the Philippines. That's what it's all about.
Okay, before we're going to the next part of the program, let me take this opportunity to express my deep gratitude to all the speakers who unselfishly try to share their knowledge and experience and insights on the various aspects of ecotourism and related topics. Let's give all speakers a big hand. Yes. And I would like to express also my personal gratitude. My job as facilitator also for this forum would have not been easier without the very competent moderators who were the experts themselves in the particular topics or sessions that were assigned to them. So let's give a big hand to Ms. Wandipa Panumal, the moderator of first session. Okay. And the moderator for the second session, Dr. Mihi Kang. Okay. The moderator for third session, Ms. Susan Santos de Cardenas. The moderator for the fourth session this morning, Mr. Natapol Kairu. And the very energetic Dr. Alan Wong. And of course, the excellent facilitation also, Ms. Chichi Ay. Thank you very much for your support, and I really had a good time working with you. And I won't make any longer speech, except just to express my deep appreciation to everybody. So may I invite now Susan? We'll go to the next session.
Session na yan. Hindi mo sila.
Closing lang.
What's the title of this? The last finish. And now, we come to the finale of this two-day highly educational and highly interesting forum, our own pledge and support to practice sustainable ecotourism. So, this is the Silang Cavite Pledge of the Asian Ecotourism Network, and all of us here who are attending this forum, who have attended this two-day forum, we promise only what can be delivered based on genuine and authentic experiences. That's the pledge. Next is we have to ensure ethical interaction with wildlife and their habitats, respect and value both contemporary and traditional culture, including their tangible and intangible heritage. We have to show respect to communities, including indigenous people, in the contents that are reviewed and agreed by the communities. We have to minimize negative impacts and maximize local benefits while providing positive visitor experiences during visits to historically and culturally sensitive sites. Enhance the understanding and awareness of stakeholders by ecotourism businesses, communities, and visitors. Use materials produced locally in a sustainable manner. Ensure promotion and marketing activities are delivered in a sustainable way that minimizes greenhouse gas emission. Reduce the carbon footprint of promotion and marketing activity through management actions and offset based on scientific measurement of all sources of greenhouse gas emission. Last but not the least, we have to strengthen a network among ecotourism players in order to enhance effectiveness in marketing and promotion. All of us will have to sign this pledge on ecotourism, marketing, and promotion. It's a typo error. It's not my error, okay? But I pronounce it right. I was worried if I didn't pronounce right. Marketing and promotion, all right? So we all have to sign this pledge. If you can come back tomorrow, we will have another session of learning from our neighboring brothers and sisters from the ASEAN countries who will also share their best practice stories. So this will be signed by our AEN President, Masaru Takayama, and Dr. Mina Gabor. We sign it now. All right, okay. So I would like to invite Dr. Mina Gabor to endorse and in fact confirm and affirm our pledge today. Actually, we have the declaration with us now. It's the Silang Cavite Declaration on Ecotourism Marketing and Promotion. And this will be signed by the 14 members of the board now. May I ask the 14 members of the board to come up and to be ready with your ball pens. Afterwards, we will ask everyone to stand up and do our pledge. We have the pledge on the board. May we request everyone to please stand up while they're preparing for this. Everyone in the audience to please stand up. Okay. Okay. Yeah. May we ask all of you to please, members of the board, pakuha ng isang mesa. Pakuha ng isang mesa. Dito. Para yeah. Those that are at the back, can you read the pledge from the board? Okay. Yeah. Okay, everyone, let's do our pledge. Let's do it near our heart. You know, put your right hand on the left side of your heart, of your chest. First of all, promise only what can be delivered based on genuine and authentic experience. Ensure ethical interaction with wildlife and their habitats. Respect and value both contemporary and traditional culture, including their tangible and intangible heritage. Show respect to communities, including indigenous people, in the contents that are renewable and agreed by the. Minimize negative impacts and maximize local benefits whilst providing positive visitor experiences during visits to historical and culturally sensitive areas. Enhance understanding and awareness of stakeholders by ecotourism businesses, communities, and visitors. Use materials produced locally and in a sustainable manner. Ensure promotion and marketing activities are delivered in a sustainable way that minimizes greenhouse gas emissions. Reduce the carbon footprints of promotion and marketing activity through management actions and/or offset based on scientific measurement of all sources of greenhouse gas emissions. Strengthen a network among ecotourism players in order to enhance effectiveness of marketing and promotion. So do I pledge? So do we pledge? Thank you, thank you. And now may we pass on the piece of paper where the rest of the board can sign. Yes. No, we pass everybody there. No, yeah. You can go to the. We go out now. Yeah.
Give the rest first before you. You are the end, right?
Yeah, the end.
You are
Correct.
the end.
The end, yes.
Maybe the others.
You come
The others.
because I will be at the end. You come
Hey,
first.
Alan.
Yeah, yes,
Alan.
because you're a
Alan,
member of
go.
the board. Because you're a member of the board.
Okay.
Yeah. Go now because you're a member of the board.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, you too. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Magulo ko para marinig kita. Sakit ako kanina eh. Kala ko hindi ako makakatayo.